So I would like to ask you today, how did you get into yoga?
Well, it's an interesting story. It's been a long process for me. In 1990, I was partially paralyzed in a car accident. I was the passenger in a vehicle, and it had been freezing rain on top of snow, and we didn't know that the road was covered in freezing rain. And our car was hit on the side, and I had my arms up bracing myself because we could see the accident coming. And basically I did enough damage in my spine that I was partially paralyzed. I couldn't get any information through to my hands and legs. I could move around a little bit, but as soon as I started to move, everything would go numb, so I'd have to hold myself up. For 7 years I couldn't even wash my own hair. 7 years into my partial paralysis, I discovered homeopathic medicine. It was a really interesting time because, like, if the lights were out, I couldn't even tell where my hands were. They would fly around and I would hit myself, but I didn't know it was me hitting me. And I discovered homeopathic medicine because my dog, my poor partner, was looking after me, and then my dog had an injury where he slipped a disc in his back. So my partner was towel walking my dog, and one day I was listening to the radio, and I heard on the radio, it was a veterinarian talking, and he said, and there's a funny story about this too, but he said, in my mind anyway, if you have a male German Shepherd with a weak hind end, the homeopathic remedy that he needs is conium. And I went, conium? What? What's homeopathic? Right? So I sent my partner on a search to go and find this medicine, and he found it in Sooke. Sooke is just this amazing place. And he found it in Sooke, and he brought it home, and I gave it to the dog, and the dog started running from the living room to the kitchen, from the living room to the kitchen, and he hadn't been able to do that for 10 months. So in order to help him, I got this book called Homeopathy for Musculoskeletal Healing, and I started looking for remedies for him because he was born without a hip joint on the left side. And as I was doing research for him, I realized that the man who wrote the book was actually saying that these remedies could go in and they could fix old injuries. And so I started experimenting on myself. And after a little while, I was able to get sensation back into my hands and my feet. I would get these horrible burning sensations. I would have pins and needles for months on end, and then I would start to be able to feel. And so over time, I would walk a little bit until I would go numb, and then I would stop and I would sit and I would wait till I could get feeling back in my body, and then I would pick myself up again and I would slowly make my way, to somewhere else. And it was in this process that one Christmas my grandmother sent me some money, and I thought, well, I really want to do something with this money. I don't want to waste it. So I realized that at Sea Park there was a yoga class where all I would have to do was get from my vehicle to the other side of the sidewalk, and I could get in the door there and I would be in the yoga room. So I took my $100 that my grandmother gave me, and I got my partner to sign me up at Sea Park to take this yoga class. And then as the day approached, I literally, I made this wish, and all I wanted was to not have to leave the yoga class in an ambulance. That was my wish, was just to be able to be there in the space with the people, for an hour. And so I went to the yoga class, and my partner went and let me in the door, and I made it across the sidewalk and onto my mat, and I was there for the whole time. And I didn't necessarily do what they did, but I got to be there, and I got to do what I could do. And for me, I was in tears at the end of that class because it meant that I might finally have a life. I might, finally have something more than being in my own four walls. So I was really grateful, and we were signed up for an 8-week program, and I kept going back. And some days I would just lie on my mat and I would just be with everybody, and some days I would do more of what I could do. And over time, my body recovered more. I started painting in friends' houses. I would paint around the windows and the doors because I was teaching myself how to use my hands again. And I would walk further and further, and I would practice my little bits of yoga. And after I'd done that for 5 years, I decided that I want to have a second yoga class. And there wasn't any other yoga in Sooke. There was just the one class, Amy Nold, every Tuesday night. By then it was at the high school. And so I went to the next community. And in the next community, they had Kundalini Yoga. When I went to that first class, which was 8 years ago now, I couldn't still even hold my arms up at shoulder height or above. I could get them up there, but then they would just sink down. And the first Kundalini Yoga class, I remember absolutely everything about it. I remember the music that played before the class. I remember what we did in the class. I remember how hard it was and talking to myself about how hard it was. And I recognized that as difficult as it was, as challenging as it was for me, the amount that I had benefited from the other yoga that I had done, this challenge that was happening in my body with this practice was going to help me, exponentially more. 2 years later, because I saw the value of the practice, I decided that I want to become a Kundalini Yoga teacher. So by this point, I'm now 15 years into the recovery from the partial paralysis, 17 years actually. And I hadn't worked for 17 years. I still couldn't stand for 4 hours at a time or sit for 4 hours at a time. I had no idea what I could possibly do for a job, but I knew that I wanted to become a Kundalini Yoga teacher because I knew that I wanted to bring these tools to my community. I wanted other people to be able to have this amazing healing that I just experienced in the last 2 years. So I said to the universe, universe, I want this to happen. I want to be able to share this with my community, and so you're going to have to provide a way. And this amazing thing happened. I hadn't told anybody. I didn't tell my partner even that I was looking for a job. I had no idea what I would look for or how I would go about finding something. I had nothing I could write on a resume. Well, it took me 7 years, and I learned how to wash my hair, and then the next 10 years I spent learning how to walk and use my hands. Somebody showed up at my door in about a week to 10 days. They showed up at my door, offered me a job that I could do, that paid me enough to go to teacher training, which was in Vancouver. I needed a small car to be able to get there because I was doing the Port Renfrew mail run, and so my car would be needed even though I was in Vancouver. I needed enough money to pay for a hotel, for the ferries, for all my books and supplies, and the universe just went, yes, this needs to happen. Here's the person to, help you with this, and just put everything into motion so that teacher training could happen. And for me, that's the power of Kundalini Yoga. That's the capacity that it creates for magic to happen in your life, for energy to shift, for just for whatever you need to have happen. Whether it's emotional transformation or physical healing, whether it's increasing your capacities because you're being challenged in a new way and you need to be able to get smarter, faster, better, whatever you need, more creative. There's tools in this practice that can help you. I went from, in 2 years of studying Kundalini Yoga, I went from not being able to hold my arms up at shoulder height to when I did my teacher training, we do an all-day meditation called White Tantric Yoga. And for our all-day meditation, it's different every year. For our all-day meditation, we had to hold our arms up at shoulder height for an hour and 2 minutes. And then for the next hour and 2 minutes, they said, and now put the other arm on top. And halfway into that hour and 2 minutes, they said, and now you can sing this mantra. And the mantra was, Waheguru Satalam Satalam Ji Satalam Satalam Ji Waheguru Satalam Satalam Ji Satalam Satalam Ji. And I saw a geisha with the big sleeves, and she was dancing, and she carried me through that second hour. So I went from 15 years of not being able to hold my arms up at shoulder height or above, to 2 years of slowly being able to hold my arms up here, to 2 hours of being able to hold my arms up. And that's the capacity of Kundalini Yoga. It's just amazing. It is. It's amazing.
It's a form of magic, basically.
Yeah. It's strengthening your nervous system to the point where you have that capacity. Yeah. It's strengthening your willpower and determination so that you have, the strength inside you to go, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do this, right? It's just, I don't know. It's just such a beautiful practice, right? And I've just seen so many people, even in 2 or 3 days, they'll be saying things like, I've had anxiety for years, and in 2 or 3 days, I feel better, right? So for me, it was just, my love of our community, of Sooke. It's such a special place, and it needed to have this practice so that people could access it, So that's how I came to yoga and why I became a Kundalini Yoga teacher. I never wanted to teach the other forms of yoga. I have taught them, and I do teach them. I've done them longer than Kundalini Yoga, and I really love them. But this particular practice and the way that it works for people, for me, that's, it's the only thing that I could do was find ways to share it. I tried to get a teacher to come out here. They didn't like the road. They wouldn't come. So I had to do it myself. Right. And the universe just provided a way. And for me, this Hope Center Sooke Yoga is just that same fractal in its full expression, right? You want to be able to supply your community with this beautiful teaching. You need a space. You need the opportunity, here it is. It's been such a blessing in my life, such a gift. You can't imagine. People say, oh, you're so busy, you're so this. Try not being able to do anything for 10 years. I went from being an uber athlete. I used to ride my bike 6 miles to the swimming pool to go swimming. And then I would ride my bike 6 miles home, get my car and go meet my partner, who at the time was working downtown. And we go out dancing, right? Like I was just active to nothing. And then slowly climbing your way back out of it. And the healing that's happened in the last few years just from this Kundalini Yoga practice has been phenomenal. So.
Okay. I'm just going to stop and restart it.
Easier to end. Yeah, period.
Okay. So what's the next step then? What is the evolution of your own personal healing, the evolution of the Sooke Yoga Center? What is your next step in this evolution?
Well, I'm really hoping that this place can become a resource for our community. So I've discovered as I was going through teacher training that my path in this lifetime is actually to be a teacher. And what that means is I take the tools that I find that are valuable, that work, and then I find a way to share them back out again. So everything that I've learned through my healing about homeopathics, being a Reiki master, I worked with flower essences, I've been working with crystals, and also Kundalini Yoga and the other healing forms of yoga that we practice here. It's really about creating a resource so that the people of our community can come in here and find these tools and use them for themselves, right? We have lots of different practitioners here. We have amazing yoga teachers at this studio. Like Sooke is so blessed. We have so much really in-depth knowledge and kind-hearted, open-hearted teachers that are just wanting to share their practice and help people. And it's all here. It's all in Sooke. It's amazing. We really are lucky.
We are lucky.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.